guys, welcome to Outlaw Edge. So today, I was actually talking to Danny from DG Retro Customs this morning, and I was going to cut out that piece on the 57 in between. It's a four-door, so there's that piece that was down the strip that runs down the middle of the doors, and it was just wiped out. And because this car had been hit, so it creased that all the way down both doors, the quarter panel, everything, and I've talked about that in past videos. And then that piece in the center of the doors was all wiped out. And it was like nearly, like I'd say it was unfixable. And so what I did is I started looking at this morning. Let me grab my pliers real quick. I got parts all over the place right here. So I was looking at it this morning, and I was looking at the other side, and I started checking out templates and whatever. And I was thinking about going out to cut the piece out of another car, out of another 57 four-door, and welding that piece back in there and then body working it and whatever. And after I started looking at it, I'm like, it's not so bad. I mean, the biggest thing is, like, with me, if it's a challenge, and yeah, I know I'm challenged too, because I know Wayne Reynolds is going to say that. But with the having a challenge where you can take something and fix it or restore it or build it, something that's literally junk. And that's how this panel was. So long story short, anyways, I made these pliers and I ended up fixing that panel, and I'll show you after I'm done here. But what I ended up doing, these pliers, they were like a 1/2 inch longer here, and I cut that off first with a grinder. And then I don't know if you can see what I did there. I cut a notch in this side and then left a high spot, and then I put a high spot on the bottom here, so you can see how the pliers go together. And what that, here, I don't know if you can see that good enough. Yeah, but anyways, what that ended up doing is it grabbed that lip that was around the back side of that panel, and it's just a little, probably like a 3/16 inch, 1/4 inch lip, and I could lock the pliers in there and then just pull it straight out like this. And then I could put a dolly behind it, hammer it, and then I use that template to get the shape that I needed, and I match the other side from the driver's side to the passenger side and make sure it was straight up and down, plumb, level, all this crap. And then that piece that I bent out with the pliers, then I took my dolly and I stuck behind it and I hammered it back over the top of that, like it was supposed to be. And what I'll do is I'll shut the camera off and I'll go over there and I'll show you how it turned out. It was a fun project, I mean, I kicked its butt. It didn't kick my butt, but it turned out really nice, and I'm happy the way it turned out, whatever. And then now that panel's in primer, it's pretty much done. And I have, most of the cars done or whatever. I keep finding little dings and little spots that you just don't find until you start cleaning up panels and whatever. I've been block sanding the piss out of these panels, so they're like super straight. And when the paint lays down on it, it should look really good. But we'll see what happens. Today what I'm doing is this front clip. I just got that side over there completely wet sanded. And somebody on the YouTube channel, I think it was yesterday, or it might have been this morning, I don't know. They were asking, do I wet sand or sand between primer coats, I think is what they were asking. And I was trying to explain to them that when I get to the very last coat of primer where I think everything is flawless, everything's perfect, everything's ready for paint, and a lot of guys don't do this. Everybody, I know they do different steps, they do different techniques, different methods, whatever. What I do is I end up wet sanding that panel, and I use just a spray bottle with 4 drops of Dawn dish soap in it, and fill it up with water, shake it up, and I use 400 or 600 grit wet dry automotive paper. And then what I do is I will block out the last coat, but the coat that I'm doing right now, getting ready to put sealer on it. So right now this is primer surfacer. And what I'll do is I'll sand every panel on the whole car, every single panel on this car. And I'll wet sand it with soap and water. And then when I'm done, I will go over the top of that after it's all dry and everything. I'll put prep all on it, wax and grease remover, wipe it down real good, dry it off, and then I'll put primer sealer over the top of that. When that primer sealer goes on, you're done. That's it. It's ready for paint. And that last step takes any little imperfections, any dirt nibs or dust nibs or any little imperfections out of that paint. Excuse me. So it makes it flawless. And that's what I want, And this isn't going to be a show paint job. you know, the customer didn't pay for a show paint job, which is, you know, by the time we're done, it'll be freaking gorgeous. So, I mean, it'll look nice, you know. I mean, I don't care for the color like I was telling you guys, but, you know, doing those extra little steps, you know, if it's going to come out of the shop, well, if it's got our name on it, we want it to look nice. And that's what we're doing. So I'll turn the camera on and show you that panel I was talking about that I fixed. So anyways, this morning, Danny at DG Retro Customs, if you guys haven't checked out his channel, go check it out. He was busting my balls about this panel right here. And this whole panel was just completely wrecked. And it turned out nice and straight. I don't know if you can see that on camera. And it, you know, it's flawless now. And then I have one little spot over on the other side of the car that's got to get primed. So I'm gonna clean this up a little bit and take all the little surface scratches out of it. And I'll reprime this panel. And then the panel that I did in the front, this is that panel that was that I had cut out, and that's going to be reprimed one more time, and then this whole firewall is going to be ready for paint. And I like how it turned out, you know, and it looks like a stock 57 Chevy now, you know, because that panel was missing. There was that big hole in there that I welded up, and that was a huge pain in the ass. But anyways, what I'll do is I'll set the camera up over here on the tripod, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with the wet sanding that I'm doing right now. So one of the other things is when you're using wet dry paper or sandpaper in your auto body shop, you know, a lot of guys, they try to cheap out, and that's what I think frustrates them, and then they don't take that extra step, and they end up quitting or not finishing the job or whatever. If you're gonna buy the materials for your shop, don't buy junk. Get 3M, or, you know, I got a couple other brands over here that are really nice. There's only one brand that we've got as far as sandpapers and whatever, you know, sticky backs, and then the hook and loop and whatever. There's only one brand that we got that I didn't care for. And honestly, I can't remember what the brand is. It's over here in the cabinet somewhere. We don't even use it anymore. We have all 3M products, and it's pretty cool that 3M is actually made in Minnesota, so that's pretty nice. But what I have here is the wet dry paper. I've already been using it, and you can see it's all dirty right now because I'm using it, but it's 3M, and that's P600 grit. You see it right there. And then the water bottle is just a normal spray bottle, and I keep it where it has a big stream where it comes out, you know, where you can drench that sandpaper and keep it wet. The wet and the soap helps clean the water off the sandpaper so it doesn't let it plug up. If you try to sand primer and whatever with just wet dry paper and it's dry, it's just gonna make a big mess. It's gonna clog up the paper and whatever. So all that does is just, you know, it keeps it from clogging up. But anyways, so what I did is I took this bottle, and it's just a Zep spray bottle. You don't have to use Zep. I mean, you can use anything. And I filled it up with warm water, and then I put 4 drops, I think it was 4 drops in each bottle, because I have like 4 of these bottles, these spray bottles. But I put 4 drops of Dawn dish soap in here in the water, shake it up really good, and then I kind of shake it every once in a while too when I'm using it. And then when you're ready to start wet sanding, then, you know, you just go for it. I'm gonna get another piece of wet dry paper though real quick, because this stuff is kind of getting tore up. It's starting to get old. And that's the thing, is you want to make sure that you keep real strong paper. You know, once it's wore out and junk, just ditch it. And I don't try to use them again. I'll end up throwing them away. But a lot of times there's a panel that you need a little bit finer paper. So I do have a box where I throw some of the old ones in. I'll open them up, dry them out, and I'll fold them back up, and I'll throw them in that box in my cabinet over there. And then they're a little bit softer, where if it's 600 grit or 400 grit, it's not so rough. So if you have a panel where you find like a little imperfection and you want to sand it out, you can put it on a block, or you can do it by hand, and it helps out, you know. And this is 02036 is your part number on the 3M, if you guys were wondering. And like I said, if you're going to use some, you know, the stuff in the body shop, you know, make sure that you use high quality stuff, because it's such a pain in the ass. You know, the cheaper sandpapers, hold on a second. The cheaper sandpapers and whatever, I've noticed in the past, like I've tried to use, and no offense to Harbor Freight, I love their stuff, I love their tools and everything, but, you know, I got some stuff, some Chinese made wet dry paper from Harbor Freight one time. This was years ago. So, I mean, you know, I imagine they have better stuff now. But I tried using it, and then, you know, all the sanding stuff came out the front, and then it started ripping and tearing and getting all wet and nasty, and just turned into crap. So I try, you know, ever since then I try to stick with like a more of a high quality sandpaper and whatever. But I'm gonna shut this camera off, I'll get it turned around, and I'll show you what I'm doing. You know, the other thing too is, you know, people think that these paint jobs are done overnight, you know, like on TV, and I did a rant on this a while back. You know, they think it's done overnight, and like on TV, they'll show in one episode, they'll say, you know, in a week, they got this whole car painted and stuff. What they don't realize though is a lot of times that this primer, sometimes you can't even, you know, you gotta wait till the next day. You can't sand it the same day. The paint, when you lay it down, you know, clear coat it, and they're showing them, you know, the same day on these TV shows and stuff. And it cracks me up. They're wet sanding them and, you know, buffing them and doing all this crap. That's a bunch of crap. You know, there's weeks and weeks and sometimes months and months going to these paint jobs. And if you got, you know, a team of guys, you know, working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, yeah, it'll go fast, but you still have to have the freaking dry times. Because I've watched some of these TV shows before where, and I'm not gonna say no names, but they were painting a car, and what happened is the solvents weren't out of the primer yet. The guy painted the car, and so the stuff wasn't cured yet. And then all of a sudden they started having these big bubbles popping up all over the paint. And that's the stuff that'll happen. You know, you just gotta be careful with it. So take your time, do it right first, and then don't have to mess around with it again. So, but anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and start sanding on this and quit yakking. And then I'll just kind of show you what I was doing. So what I do first is I'll wet down the panel. And then I run my hand across it so it kind of like gets the whole panel wet, ready to go. And then I'll wet the paper. Excuse me. And just nice and slow, and keep wetting the paper the whole time. And you want to go long strokes if you can, if the panel will let you. And all you're doing is you're knocking all the nibs and all the high spots and any cottage cheese looking crap, you know, orange peel off the primer. And then you don't want to go in one direction. And also you should be using a block. I'm just doing this by hand just to knock this stuff down so I can get some sealer on it. It's already been blocked so many times. And then when you're done going one direction, and you'll feel the paper kind of like starting to stick to the panel, start going the opposite direction in long strokes. Keep wetting the paper. And then the other thing I don't ever do is you won't ever see me lay this on the panel after that. I'll try to lay this somewhere else where it's not laying on the panel itself. And then I'll show you on the other fender what I'm doing. And then this is Prep-All wax and grease remover. And right before I'm ready to spray primer sealer on, I'll take these Bodyshop rags. And these are like, I don't know if you can see that in the camera. They're like a real thick rag. They almost don't even rip. And I mean, I imagine you could use them again, but I don't like to. And I just fold them up like this. Excuse me. And you'll really see how your finish is going to look when you do this using the Prep-All. And what this will do is this will just light up that whole panel, and it'll show you that you can, you know, it'll show you how nice that panel is going to look after you get that paint or that clear coat on it. And I was talking about, you know, the other day I was showing the hood when I was in the middle of working a panel. And now that this has been wet sanded and it's absolutely flawless, you know, you'll really be able to see the difference in that panel. And let me see if I can do this. And if you notice right here, you know, like when you put this wet on there, what that does is that's going to look like your clear coat on the car. And you can see it's like a mirror now. You know, you can see the mirror, the reflection and everything in it. I mean, it looks really nice. So by taking that extra step and, you know, wet sanding, because the guy was asking about that on YouTube, I think it was yesterday or this morning, by taking that extra step and then putting your sealer on this, and then putting it in the paint booth and painting the car, that's that extra time, putting pride into your work. That extra time will really shine in the end, because then that's going to save you a lot of time. Your paint work's going to be flawless. But anyways, I hope that helps. Just like a little tutorial or whatever, I'm just messing around out here. Wet sanded, taking it easy today, getting all the panels wet sanded. Hopefully I'll have them all done by tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. There's a lot of work. Your hands keep cramping up because you're pushing so hard trying to sand, You don't need to push hard, but when you're doing wet dry paper, a lot of times it wants to jerk the paper out of your hands. But anyways, if you can go check out DG Retro Customs and Michael Knight on YouTube, and Mill Creek Fab Shop and Ralphie's Customs, and go check our other channel out, NZ Mopar. But anyways, I appreciate the support. If you guys can hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell so you can come back and check out the channel when we have other videos popping up. And we try to do them every day, maybe every other day if we're real busy, but we'll see what happens. But I really appreciate you guys, and if you can go check out our Patreon, excuse me, check out our Patreon, and down below we also have our new Teespring store. If you guys want to support the channel, buy some shirts and whatever. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.